Nintendo stuff. Welcome to the Nintendo Stuff Podcast, episode 59. My name is Brandon Miracle, joined by Logan Welliver.
It's me again. I can't believe I'm here again. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you every episode, you drive for like 2 hours to get here, and then we set up. He drives 2 hours from his room across the hall.
Brandon always plans to do these alone, and at the last minute, every time without fail, he goes, "You know what? I actually feel like I need a co-host. Do you wanna help me out?" And I'm like, "Brandon, why don't you just ask me to join the Break Room Arcade?"
Yeah, you'd think I'd do that by now. You know, there's 3 faces on the logo, and then there's one that looks awfully like yours, but I really don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, we can just like get rid of that guy and then pretend he's you.
I'm okay with that. I'm down with that. I'm down with a coup.
Santi says someday Logan will be a member.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, someday. So lots to talk about. Sorry we've been absent for a little bit. We were going through some personal life changes here, me specifically, with a new job.
I was about to say, did you get married?
A few years ago.
It's a long adjustment period.
Yeah. Long honeymoon. Yeah, it's been a little difficult for me. I'm incredibly tired right now just because like my schedule isn't consistent the way it used to be anymore, so I'm just kind of getting used to that. But always happy to do the show. I'm glad we're doing it because
for sure.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's really the main thing that's been kind of keeping us out, but we're here now and kind of I'm in the motion of things at work, so this shouldn't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, it's always more fun to go to a job where you actually feel like, I don't know, you have a handle on things, and that's really hard to do with literally any job, like, you know, for at least the first few days.
Yeah, and this is the first time I've ever really been a manager. Like on my very first day, I was presented with some actual things that they wanted me to manage. Yeah, and they're like, we need mandates on certain things, and I'm like, okay,
all right, there are things I have to do. You know, I always love, like, it's something you learn as you get out into the world and you start to get more jobs, especially when they're a little more specialized, you know, AV or video specifically, which is what we have experience in. But like, there's always going to be things on a job that you either don't know or you don't anticipate. But one thing I've learned is that if you just do it, you eventually learn it, and then all the anxiety goes away, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm at day 5 here at my new job, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
Today was nice and easy. You know, I got the things that I needed to get done, and now we're just preparing for our big city event, Stroll on State, here this weekend, which has attendance like exceeding 75,000 people just in the downtown area of our city. So that's always exciting, and I'm just excited to kind of be in a new part of that. But this is a Nintendo podcast, so
is it?
We're going to shift gears over that way.
Switch gears, you mean?
Dude,
you missed it! I can't believe you!
I am so sorry.
You are just that tired, aren't you?
I think I need to retire from the Break Room Arcade now. You just take my membership card.
You can't even make the most basic puns, man.
Hey, I make great puns, and whenever
that's not a pun, I guess.
It's whenever I like
regardless
reply to Andre over at Game Explain, you know, he's the pun king, so like I always try to make sure that my replies have some kind of pun involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's been going pretty well for me. That said, over the last couple of weeks, not a lot of major things, but there are a few important things that have happened. And why don't we just do this chronologically? We've got Sonic here over on the side. And for those of you who haven't been in the know, Sonic has a movie coming out next year. Originally scheduled for this month, actually. It was going to come out in November of this year, but it got delayed.
Thank God.
Thank God, because Sonic's design was ugly. And we finally got a chance to look at his new design. And Logan, I'll just kind of field your response.
Yeah, really what I can say is that, like, when I first saw the first trailer with less than ideal Sonic, I was not feeling very confident because I mean it's another video game movie. Like they have a track record of just screwing all these movies up, and it wasn't until like at least I would say like Detective Pikachu is like the first good.
It's kind of interesting that we have these two characters here. I was going to say that because Detective Pikachu was like right there when this movie was being revealed, and like Detective Pikachu became the standard for what a video game movie should be.
Again, like it wasn't like an incredible, like groundbreaking film. It was just a good film. It was fun. It was well written, and I didn't hate myself after watching it.
It stayed true to the source material while also doing its own thing. It found that middle ground, and that's something that the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was kind of lacking in that first reveal, at least in his design.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, I think there are other, like, misgivings about the film that still exist.
Oh, yeah, I have mine.
But, like, now that the design is actually, like, it resembles Sonic, right? I mean, even down to, like the shoes, you know, and a few other, like, things. Like, oh, and he's got gloves now, thank God. And you know they didn't exactly do the connected eyes, but the way that they designed the nose
like the
and
white fur.
Well, and it's the specifically like his kind of face fur that kind of comes up, you know, and so it kind of bridges that and gives it that natural look, while still having two separate eyes. And so I think the few what do you call it that they took, like liberties they did take, made sense within the production, and now I can say that I'm actually excited to see this film. I'm not expecting like a ton out of it, but I'm expecting hopefully something decent, something fun, and something that's really representative of Sonic, really. So
I think that's how you have to go into movies like this. This is like how I went into Detective Pikachu. You know, I wasn't expecting movie of the year material or like the greatest video game movie ever made, but I was expecting a good Pokemon adaptation, and hopefully that's what we get with Sonic. Having the design down is probably like your first barrier when making this kind of movie, because you know if the Pokemon had looked bad for Detective Pikachu, that would have turned most of us off from the get-go. You know, like we said, it's not like the greatest movie ever made. It's not even like a great movie. It's just a good movie. And if you had eliminated the great designs of the Pokemon, that would have dropped it down a few notches.
That would have been awful. Like, can you imagine like going like the movie was no different other than the fact that like the design of the Pokemon were awful and trash. But thankfully, like, you know, the Pokemon company had enough say in what was happening there that they probably couldn't deviate too greatly from the original representation.
It's kind of interesting too, because like they had an artist online who was doing like realistic depictions of Pokemon, and he was hired on to become part of the movie design process, which is very similar to what ended up happening to our boy Sonic, because Mr. Tyson Hess became a part of the project.
And what is Tyson Hess's role?
His role in the movie?
Well, his role, his career, his occupation. Well, what is he known for?
The Sonic Mini Adventures shorts.
Oh, which were very good.
Very good.
Very good. Like, oh man.
It's funny too, because he uploaded a drawing or like a piece of art of his own depiction of what Sonic should have looked like for the movie, and I believe that was the catalyst that got him the job.
Yeah.
Because the design he came up with in the end is only very slightly different from the one he originally drew.
For sure.
So it's kind of awesome to see that. Like the Sonic he drew was basically what we have in the movie now, without gloves and maybe a slightly different style shoe. So they put gloves on him and then tweaked the shoes a bit, and that's the Sonic we ended up with.
Yeah. And they fixed the eyes and the nose and the face overall.
Yeah.
No, again, I'm just really happy that this is like as long as I have a decent Sonic to look at in the film. Otherwise, like, I can't imagine what that would actually be like, having to sit through a movie that's probably not going to be incredible and then also have to look at an awful Sonic.
You know, performances aside, like I forget who is voicing Sonic for this movie, but you know, he comes off so differently when you have a character that's well animated.
Oh yeah, no, it feels like an entirely different character.
Yeah.
And it's weird how, I don't know. I mean, maybe they went back and redid some of the lines, but we also heard some lines that we hadn't heard in the first trailer. So
one of the lines that is seemingly gone is meow. And I can't express how happy I am that that's maybe gone, because that line does not read.
I hope it's still there. I sincerely hope it's still there, because I feel like I still want it to be like we know we're gonna
a
get
little campy.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we changed the animations and people are really happy about that, but we still want everybody to groan with a with a line like that. Oh man, yeah, I look forward to it.
We also got to look at Green Hill Zone.
We did, and I was like really happy to see that.
It's a very just true to form Green Hill Zone,
which leads me to like my one issue, and this I think we've had this discussion before on how like a lot of video game movies handle themselves, and they're like, what if the video games came into the real world? And they're doing it again. Well, I mean, didn't they do that with like Super Mario too?
Yep. They went to the dinosaur land.
Oh man.
The Mushroom Kingdom. But don't even get me started on Monster Hunter. I'm so angry. That movie's coming out next year. Don't forget that.
Oh man. And we're gonna see it day one.
Oh, I am. We're definitely going.
If there's IMAX 3D, we're going IMAX 3D.
No, I'm paying the highest amount of money.
We are gonna see some. Okay, as long as here's my bar for the Monster Hunter movie. Did you get the monsters right? Are they gonna look really good?
That was my baseline for Pikachu. That's my baseline for Sonic. It'll be my baseline for the Super Mario Brothers movie, though I will hold that to a slightly higher standard.
Oh, I hope it's far superior than just everything looking good.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. If the monsters aren't right, what's the point? They're the whole identity of that series. But that all aside, Sonic the Hedgehog coming out on Valentine's Day 2020. There's always like a big kind of like pop culture movie that comes out on Valentine's Day every year, and that's always the movie I go see for my birthday.
Good.
So like Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2. I think the Lego Batman movie was in between those.
I remember in college going to see the Lego movie.
Oh yeah,
for my birthday.
That's
that was
a good movie.
Oh my gosh, that was too good.
And for next year it'll be Sonic the Hedgehog, which honestly isn't the worst thing it could have been.
Oh, man, February 14th. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. I look forward to that. I hope it's snowing.
And yeah, we'll hop on the podcast. We'll give you guys our opinions and thoughts on that movie. Hopefully positive, but you never know.
We'll have a Sonic stuff podcast.
Sonic stuff.
It'll be a extra.
So flipping to the other side of the table, one of the other big things that's happened over the last couple of weeks is that Pokemon Sword and Shield came out.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Wait, no, there's no way.
They did.
Oh, is that what I was hearing the other day when I was sitting in my room and I was playing anything other than Pokemon?
Yep.
And in the room next to me, I hear some Pokemon. I walk down the hall and I hear some Pokemon above me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I walk downstairs and I hear more Pokemon.
That's
like 4 days.
It's really Poke Lonely for you right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I sat down and watched you play a good chunk, and what I was seeing, I was really, really enjoying. Like, what are random encounters?
Oh my god, I'm so glad they're gone.
They're gone, and we don't miss them.
I didn't even realize leading up to the game coming out that they were completely eliminated.
Yeah, not just in the
wild area.
Wild area, for sure.
What a wonderful choice.
They were like, you know what? We like how we just run up to them and they don't just keep popping up. Obviously, there are some like encounters that are like, oh, they're in the grass. They'll pop up and surprise you. But even those can be like avoided.
They can be avoided. And at the same time, they also offer that same surprise experience you had in the older games where you didn't know what you were going to get. So that's still there. So I feel like this is a great compromise for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about not being halted every 3 steps with the same animation, the same music, the same Pokemon, that I'm just going to one-shot, you know?
So the next step for Pokemon is that the raid battles are gonna be like action RPG. And they're also just one-hit kills, because you know how
Some of them are still.
You know how popular Dark Souls has gotten. So I think they should infuse Dark Souls into Pokemon a little bit.
Have you ever played Poke Park Wii?
Poke Park Wii? No, I've never played Poke Park Wii.
Well, there are actual Pokemon battles in that game, and they play out as an action RPG.
Oh, no way.
So they've actually done it before.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Where's our Xenoblade crossover?
That's the wild area. Speaking of the wild area is really cool.
It's really big. It spans most of the map.
Yeah, so you can get to the wild area very early in the game. They do not wait to give that to you. And like you said, it's very big. It's divided into different sections, kind of like Breath of the Wild's world map.
Mm-hmm.
And in each section, there'll be different weather events that are taking place, different Pokemon that'll populate it, either, if it's raining, snowing, if it's day or night. There's lots of Pokemon in the wild area. Most of them are Pokemon from past generations. They kept most of the newer ones actually along the routes, which I thought was a good idea. Yeah, and it's really cool. When you first show up, they actually have a scripted Onix that shows up that is way overpowered for you. So right away, they just show you that, hey, there are going to be Pokemon that will wipe you out.
Right.
In fact, I have been wiped out by a Beware. I tried to capture it. I was, I had enough badges. It was at the maximum level that I could capture a Pokemon.
Right.
Wiped me out completely. I think it had to have gone for 30 or 40 turns. And I just couldn't get it.
That's amazing.
Yep, knocked me out. I got sent back to the opening area of the wild area. They healed my Pokemon, and I was just left with broken emotions.
Yeah. I've heard a few people talk about how they really haven't messed with the wild area all that much. So can you avoid it the whole game?
So there are some things you have to do that are required when you first get there, and the only things that are required are finding one of the exits and leaving. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to do anything in the wild area. It is essentially a completely optional part of the game. But it's such a cornerstone of the game too. You'd be missing a ton of the experience if you don't go there. Mm-hmm. You can, when you're walking around there and you have online turned on, you see other players walking around and doing stuff in the wild area. It's really cool. It is the first steps towards that kind of dream Pokemon MMO that we've all had. And when you play locally with your friends, they show up in the wild area too, and you can all see each other, you run around. It's really neat. In addition to that, there's the max raid battles, which you can do with your friends. What's also cool is you can do it with your friends, and then if you have missing players, it'll just fill them with CPUs, so you'll always have a full team.
I've seen some of those. They get some pretty interesting NPCs just thrown in there.
Yeah. And a lot of the times the NPCs seem to just be really OP.
I mean, I guess that's a good thing. You don't have there's no risk of there's the really awful NPC that they're just going to add to our party and it's going to screw everything up.
That's true. You'll never get an NPC that's just going to outright make you lose. But yeah, you can do that. You can camp with your Pokemon. If other players are around, they can visit your camp while you're there, and their Pokemon will show up, and you can interact with each other.
Amazing.
And if you visit someone's camp and they start cooking curry, you will get to cook curry with them. You'll all play the mini game together and get to add all of your ingredients individually.
Also incredible. I've always wanted to cook curry
virtually in Pokemon with other people.
Absolutely, just in that manner.
Yeah. So, getting away from the wild area a little bit, one thing I noticed about Sword and Shield regarding the wild area is that the actual routes, the main routes along the game, are short.
Oh. Because
the game encourages you between routes to go back to the wild area.
Right.
Because there will be more wild area for you to explore, which you don't even have to do. So the game's you can either go to the next gym, just pass through the short route, or go back to the wild area, catch some more Pokemon.
Huh.
Since more Pokemon will be available for you to catch, every time you get a new badge, that's incentive to go back to the wild area.
Right.
So the routes are short. That's actually something I kind of appreciated, because nothing bogs the Pokemon experience down more for me than just being stuck on a route that takes like 3 hours to get through. I mean, I remember like Victory Road from Pokemon Red and Blue just being really long, and it's just kind of a slog.
Yeah.
And there's none of that in Sword and Shield.
It seems like Sword and Shield respects the player's time a lot more. While
Greatly.
still, like, it's a Pokemon game. If you want to get hundreds of hours playing it, you can still do that.
I mean, I beat it at 30 hours, and we have people on our Discord server. We have C Average and Josiah. Both of them beat it at 50 hours.
Yeah.
And there are people who, beat the game pre-release for reasons we can't get into at like 14 or 15 hours just because they were rushing it.
Right. They just want to get through the game and get the the score out there.
This game will fit whatever pace you need it to, and I think that's great. Pokemon Y and Pokemon Sun both took me over a year to beat, just because, about halfway through the adventure, I just, the slog kicks in because of some of those areas, and it's like,
absolutely.
I don't want to keep going. But that didn't happen with me with Pokemon Shield. And that's a great thing, if you ask me. Like, if a Pokemon game gets me to beat it in like one short run, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think I'm more appreciative of that kind of game now, that like sometimes I don't feel like I can get through a game. Maybe it just feels like it slogs on too long, and other games I'll just eat up in pieces. But usually like a 20-30 hour game is a lot more doable than like something that's like you have to spend a minimum of 60 hours to get done.
And that's not to say a 60-hour game could, is too much. Like in the case of Dragon Quest XI-S, I just blew through that game.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. But it's really going to take the right kind of game. Like, for example, Outer Worlds, I got through in under 30 hours, and I felt like that was it. Like, it wasn't like too overtly complicated or too many things to do that were just kind of filler, Yeah. And in some ways I felt that it was a little too short, but I think for the most part, like, it was a really well-paced experience.
Well, one of the reasons I bring up Dragon Quest is because, it didn't have random encounters. It also really respects the player's time. And one thing that both games do really well is that you never spend too much time doing any one part of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm only in City A for like 20 or 30 minutes if I want to. Or, if I really want to dive in, I can be there for 3, 4, 5 hours. But I don't have to be. Like, giving me that choice to spend as much time as I personally want really just... I mean, we're adults. We don't have as much time as we used to as kids. That's why Paul started the Busy Gamer Guide, because it really applies to us now. So... I used to love games that were like 100, 150, 200 hours long as a kid, because we had all the time in the world. That's just not the way it is anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I would say a lot of those longer games that I still play, it's, not necessarily looking to beat like a campaign and then be done with it. It's like games that have a lot of replayability, like Isaac or Beat Saber, that kind of thing, that I'm going to put a lot of time in. But when it comes to like, okay, this game has a beginning and this game has an end, and here's an experience. Like, if you're going to buy this game, you're going to want to experience at least this portion, right? The main game. And yeah, usually shorter ones are a little bit more like, if I know I can play through a game in 10 to 15 hours, like, that's like, oh, okay, I'll just play that one. Because it sounds like it's going to be a nice one. I feel like I finished something.
Having closure is really helpful.
So it's like, okay, cool. I feel good about finishing a game. Like, I'm getting really, really close to finishing Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door for the first time. Like, really, really close. And I'm like, okay.
Like 25, 30 hours in that game, I think, right?
Yeah, it's not a terribly long game.
Yeah. Like, finishing a game is... in this day and age, for me, it's a rarity.
Yeah.
I try my best to finish every game I buy, because obviously I spent my money on that.
There's so many games.
Want to get my time out of it. But
Never finished.
I'm very happy that I finished Pokemon Shield, and that if I'm ready to put the game down, I can just put it down and feel good about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've talked to you about this before. Like the last few generations, I never finished those games. So I feel like if I'm going to buy Sword and Shield, I should at least like finish Sun 1st, you know? And I'm pretty close to the end of Sun as well. Well, maybe I'm not. I don't know where I'm at with Sun.
It's not the longest game. None of the Pokemon games are, but like
right.
it still is part of that era of Pokemon games that, you know, don't respect your time as much as newer ones do. I mean, even like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, however you feel about those games, I personally really enjoyed them. But yeah, like it didn't take me all that long. Red and Blue aren't long games to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah. And those didn't have random encounters either. I have a feeling like random encounters might be one of the biggest parts of Pokemon that was kind of holding me back.
Yeah, I don't think I ever realized it until it like finally happened, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is actually something that's really cool. I mean, imagine all those. Do you remember all those times like drudging through some of those like all that tall grass and like, oh, how many encounters?
Forest.
Like, when is this gonna end?
Anytime you had to go through a cave in Red and Blue was awful.
Yeah.
Like 50, 60, 70 Zubats. It's way too much. But yeah, as far as giving Pokemon Sword and Shield a grade, I'm going to give it a solid B+, I think. I feel like Sword and Shield do enough new to make a casual Pokemon fan like me, you know, enjoy the time and the experience. The online connectivity features, while not perfect in the way they're designed, they're serviceable and, you know, they're fun. Like you can create your own tournaments, which I think is a really cool thing. You can send a link code. So like we could do one with the Discord server and just have everybody participate. And, you know, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Trading, battling, it's all there.
Okay. So this all sounds great. And obviously I think at this point I'm sold on it. Just got to finish Sun, right? But the biggest question that is holding me back is that can I use my Game Boy Link cable to trade Pokemon?
You know, I'm sure if you tried really hard and you had someone who knew what they were doing, you might be able to.
How many like hoops would you have to jump through to like actually just transfer the data specifically through a Game Boy Link cable just to trade Pokemon?
I wonder like how much actual data it is too, and what's the data transfer rate on that thing? Because like with Pokemon Red and Blue and all the older games, it just had to be like kilobytes, if that.
Yeah, I mean that sounds actually too big.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just sending like a Pokemon, you know.
Because what is it? You know, it's a JPEG with some data.
Just all its stats.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the next generation of Pokemon, Generation 9, will be really when we see how they can take advantage of high definition hardware. Because if you ask me, and again, this is just, you know, a speculation on my part, but I really do feel like Sword and Shield were games that started on 3DS.
I could see that. I mean, maybe in the same breath, like, Let's Go, you know, and then they're like, okay, this is what we have. This is something we've been working on. So let's just finish it out.
I think whatever they do with Generation 9 is going to be the leap, the one that we thought would be this one.
Yeah.
I know, you know, that gets thrown around a lot with Game Freak. It's like, oh, well, maybe next generation we'll see those big changes we're hoping for. But I think it's important that they do these things kind of in baby steps, because Pokemon is a long-standing franchise with lots of people who are always buying the games. You can't do too many things at once without polarizing the fan base. Look what happened already, even with just a few of the things that changed. I know like the Pokemon or the Pokedex is a kind of a big thing, but you know, that's not by choice. They had to do that for technical reasons. So I think it's good that they do this kind of slowly. Like, you know, with X and Y, we went 3D, but we still had the grid.
Like you could, that way you can like just focus on like what would be the best like way to evolve this mechanic or replace this mechanic. And then, you know, do it little by little. Obviously, getting rid of something like the grid in Pokemon Sun and Moon was just a big thing. Like, why is this why is this here? You know, we don't need this anymore. It's not serving any purpose. And same thing with like the random encounters. It's not like you have to hide the Pokemon anymore. They can just be there and you can run into them, you know?
And they used Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee as the field test for that. They're like, okay, how could we do this that would also appeal to new players that are coming from Pokemon Go? And they tried it, and there was a lot of Pokemon on the field at once, and they dialed that back a little bit for Sword and Shield. Also gave back a little bit of the random encounters, and I found a good balance. So, yep, with Generation 9, I think we'll see some pretty big changes. Maybe a completely rotatable camera through the entire adventure.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the wild area is just your game now. I think that's the next step.
Just the whole thing, just be one big open world.
Yep.
Well, I think I would like for it to move in that direction.
I think so, too. This is the test run. That's how they do this.
Yeah.
But that's enough on Pokemon Sword and Shield's review, but we do need to talk about sales.
Yeah. So first 3 days, 6 million units.
Sun and Moon, I think, sold 7.2 million in its first week? 2 weeks?
Yeah. And obviously, I think this has a lot to do with install base, and then also that this is like...
I mean, the 3DS would have been higher by that point in terms of the install base.
Oh.
For hardware units, because Sun and Moon was just a couple years back. The 3DS had been out for 6 years by then.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a monumental feat.
No, this is great. I mean, it's the fastest selling Switch game
In history.
currently.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think Pokemon Let's Go, Eevee and Pikachu sold a little over 10 million.
It had a pretty slow...
Because, I mean, it also wasn't like a core Pokemon
Yeah.
title, you know? So there was a lot of things.
The messaging was clear on that, clearly.
Certainly. But it still sold well. I imagine that this, you know, within 2 weeks we'll probably have passed it. I mean, I wouldn't be
I think these games have the potential to be the number 2 behind Mario
like
Kart.
Yeah. When I was thinking number 2, I was like, you know, in terms of sales for just the series alone.
Oh,
like, I don't think it'll
yeah.
ever pass
Red and Blue.
Like Red and Blue, like, oh my gosh. But
No,
could I see
that's a phenomenon.
could I see Sword and Shield like getting past, like, you know, even like something like 20 million? I don't know, but that's definitely on the higher end of it, but it seems plausible to me, especially with just how the Switch is doing.
I mean, you're also not considering the fact that we haven't even gotten through the holiday season yet.
Right. Yeah, like this, it's only a matter of time until every kid gets a Switch Lite and a copy of Sword or Shield.
That said, some of these sales could be parents buying the games for their kids and then, you know, wrapping them away and holding off for Christmas. But
certainly, but I don't think everybody has done that. Like,
no, I mean, this is only the first wave.
yeah, and like if you've ever worked retail, especially if like that retail like sells games, like when you get like a Pokemon game in, like they're gonna have like boxes and boxes and boxes, and they're not gonna run out for weeks because they get so many. They're eventually just gonna sell out for the most part, but I mean, there's always gonna be more. Yeah, I think it'll be even more interesting. Give us like a month or two, especially after like most of the holidays are like over and we're well into January, and see how it's doing at that point.
I do believe that these games could end up at the number 2 in terms of highest selling Switch software. Mm-hmm. Current top is Mario Kart, right?
Oh, hands down.
Yeah. So
there's nothing that has like the longevity of a Mario Kart game,
except maybe Pokemon.
Well, but I mean, there's eventually
there's going to be a new Pokemon.
Yeah, except with like Mario Kart, it's like you get one on the system, and then it just keeps selling until the system dies, and then it keeps selling.
Mario Kart Wii.
Mario Kart Wii.
So 2 console generations ago. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll be safe to call this a number 2, and I think our eventual number 3 will be another Pokemon game.
I hope so. Give me more Pokemon.
Yeah, so congratulations to Sword and Shield. It seems like all of the controversy didn't really affect the sales.
It doesn't, right? Again, like these people who are complaining are gonna buy it anyway because FOMO, you know.
Yeah. So, enough about that. What else we got?
So here's a small bit of Smash news. So for 5 days, starting on November 29th, so 2 days from now, Resident Evil spirits will appear on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's Spirit Board for 5 days.
Is it just like on the general Spirit Board, or will it have its?
That's what it seems like.
So it's not like its own, like the DLC ones.
It says starting 5 days, lasting for 5 days, spirits will appear on the game's Spirit Board. Yeah.
So okay.
Just the generic old Spirit Board.
That's cool.
This is cool. I mean, again, this is another way that Nintendo can kind of use their games to promote like other games on the platform. I mean, because at this point, like, you can buy a triple pack on the Switch with Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, did they just announce a Resident Evil 3 remake as well?
That is a rumor.
Okay.
But it is very likely happening.
So, I think it'd be interesting at some point if any versions of 1, 2, and 3 also made it onto the Switch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is pretty cool. Some people are saying that this is a confirmation that no Resident Evil character will be joining the roster. That's dumb.
Yeah, I don't think that's the reason. Also, I never considered a Resident Evil character for Smash.
You never know.
Man, there's so many things I could have...
It does make me wonder, though, like, you know, if Capcom's got another character on the way, part of that is a personal bias for my boy Monster Hunter, or girl. But I really don't think it means anything. I think this is Capcom saying, hey, you want some Resident Evil PNGs? And they're like, sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, this is, like, really easy content, like putting a little bit of a remix on some spirits. And
you should never, like, discount the spirit battles because they're all well thought out.
For sure.
And, you know, there's over 1,300 of them. So keep cranking them out. It's cool. It's more single-player content.
Yeah. So that's just a small thing. Another small thing, yeah, I mean, outside of Pokemon and I guess we never talked about
the Game Awards.
The Game Awards.
Yeah,
so I'll mention this and then we'll talk about the Game
Sure.
Awards. Something small, because I'm a puzzle freak. There's more Dr. Mario World stages coming.
Of course.
This might have to be the most forgiving game in terms of monetization. Like, you know, Nintendo's been putting some pretty thirsty monetization methods in, like, Mario Kart Tour, and then most recently in Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. It's getting pretty bad. But, guys, there's always go back to Dr. Mario World free-to-play, and I still haven't spent a dime, and I've finished over...
It's a pretty good game.
I've finished, like, over 200 levels, and this will bring the level count up to 360.
Yeah, that's just gonna keep growing.
It's just gonna keep growing. It's a good game.
Quickly to touch on Animal Crossing, there's 2 different subscription packages, if I understand correctly.
You might know better than I would. I just heard subscription, and I haven't played Pocket Camp in forever for a whole host of other reasons.
One of them is like $3, and the other one is $8. I think one of them gives you access to like a fortune cookie shop, like an exclusive one. And then the other one expands your storage up to 5,000 items. And I'm like, is that it for $8?
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot for a little.
Yeah,
I spend $8 a month on things that get me a lot more, right?
Yeah, this is getting bad.
That's a whole video subscription service that you're spending on a single game. What does that net you? Especially something that's so light on actual gameplay.
Tell me this. Why isn't this stuff just available for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers? For free?
I mean, if Nintendo's truly trying to push the Switch, that would be a fantastic way of doing it.
If they don't want to do that, why not add an additional $4.99 to the $20 subscription model and call that the mobile subscription and just give you access to all of that on their mobile games?
I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, that seems more logical to me But I'd like to see how much money Pocket Camp and Mario Kart 2 are raking in right now.
Mario Kart's, I'm assuming, making bank because it's Mario Kart.
Oh, the downloads are I think it was over 40 million downloads the first month.
Holy cow.
And then over 86 million the second month.
Wow.
Yeah, so the downloads are great and the monetization model is pretty predatory, so they're probably making a pretty penny off of these apps right now.
I mean, it's getting bad. If this keeps happening, I'm going to start having some choice words.
Yeah, my only worry is that this seeps into what Nintendo is doing
on their consoles,
right?
I would hope not.
And again, Nintendo's had their missteps before in terms of monetization, but they've never been as egregious as some companies like EA or Activision.
Well, they always make sure, especially with their consoles and their home platforms, that you are getting a value. When I go to the store and I buy a $60 cartridge, there's $60 worth of game in there. It could be short, it could be long, but it's quality. That's the difference.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go home with Mario Kart 9 and have to spend $7 a month just to, play a gacha game.
Yeah, give me I'll pay the $60 and then maybe some money for DLC down the line.
Of course. And the DLC on Mario Kart 8 for Wii U was dirt cheap, and you got a lot of stuff.
It was really cheap.
But, that's a conversation for another day. Hopefully we don't have to have it, I think, is my main thing.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
What?
I feel like we're probably going to have this conversation down the line. That's just I'm a pessimist when it comes to this kind of thing because it's always that monetization that screws things up. But thankfully, there are better things to talk about.
Like the Game Awards.
So we learned about the nominees.
Do you have a list of those available to you?
I do.
Cool.
It's actually right here on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think since this is a Nintendo podcast, we can go through all of these, but I do want to talk about the best category first. Can you guess what the best category is?
It wouldn't happen to be best family game.
Dude, it's best family game. How'd you guess?
Oh, I'm pretty good at that.
Okay, so you're not going to believe this, all right?
What is it?
Here's the list of games that have been nominated
for
best family game.
Uh-huh.
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Mm-hmm.
Ring Fit Adventure.
Ooh.
Super Mario Maker 2.
Uh-huh.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Uh-huh.
And Yoshi's Crafted World. Do you know what the theme is between all these games?
I do.
They're all really colorful.
I was going to say that.
And they're all Nintendo published titles.
It's so funny, too, because during the live stream, Jeff, in his interstitials between each category, he even commented on the fact that
was
Nintendo.
His replacement for actually laughing.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. It's kind of why do we have this award? Obviously it's cool. It's the best family game. Best family game's always been weird for me. It's always been a weird category, but I understand why it's there.
It's an important category.
Yeah, it's okay, what's gonna respect your family while also just being it's a family game. It's fun together, for whatever reasons. Obviously, Luigi's Mansion 3 has co-op. Ring Fit Adventures. Choice.
I mean, it's a lifestyle game.
Right, for sure. Obviously, you're gonna put Mario Maker in there.
Oh yeah, that's an
Smash Bros.
Choice.
Ultimate. Who doesn't love to get around the TV with their family? And then Yoshi's Crafted World.
I feel like a lot of people don't think about that one much, just because it came out so early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a great game. You should play it.
Yeah. So some other categories that Nintendo was nominated in. Let's see here. That's not one.
Art direction, I think. For
Art direction, which had Link's Awakening against Control, Death Stranding, Grease, Sayonara Wild Hearts. I almost just said Hearts. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
That's a pretty like good spread of art directions too.
Oh yeah, like Death Stranding and Sekiro are kind of grittier. Sayonara Wild Hearts is very like psychedelic and 80s.
I mean, we should also give Death Stranding some credit for like having this really cool identity that only it has.
Oh yeah, it's kind of grimy and
goopy.
Goopy.
Yeah, babies.
Don't get attacked by the goop. Best score in music, Nintendo was nominated for Cadence of Hyrule. Which
was Nintendo nominated?
Well,
no, but
Nintendo's the publisher. So, and obviously it's a Zelda game, right?
Zelda music, yeah.
Also inside that category, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Sayonara Wild Hearts.
I'm very happy that Sayonara Wild Hearts is getting some nods.
Has a very good soundtrack, considering that whole game is a soundtrack, essentially.
Yes. Also, hashtag Queen Latifah.
Right? That kind of threw me for a loop after I finished it. Okay, I have to mention this because this isn't Nintendo related, but best performance, this list is so good.
Oh, for best like vocal performance?
Yeah. I also like how they don't have like best voice actor, best voice actress. It's just kind of best voice performance, right? So they had Ashley Birch as Parvati Holcomb in The Outer Worlds, which I totally recognized her voice not too long into playing that game.
I think she was my vote the year. She was nominated
for Horizon.
For Horizon,
yes. There's Courtney Hope as Jesse Faden in Control. I still need to play that game.
I need to play that too.
Laura
Bailey.
Yeah, Laura Bailey as Kate Diaz in Gears 5.
Love Laura Bailey.
Matthew Porretta as Dr. Casper Darling in Control. So Control got two noms. Norman Reedus as Sam Porter Bridges in Death Stranding. And
Here we
Mads Mikkelsen as Cliff in Death Stranding.
Was it any surprise to you that this was my vote?
No. I mean,
I haven't
honestly,
even played the game.
I think the only reason that I might honestly agree with you is one, it's Mads Mikkelsen. And two, the only other person who I feel like really tugs at my heartstrings and really gives me that performance that's just is Ashley Birch, right?
She's fantastic.
And I think the only reason I wouldn't give that isn't even because of her performance. It's just because of the style of game that it is.
Yeah.
And, even though like her performance of the lines that she had, incredible. Such for characters that don't have amazing facial animation, for like our bigger RPG like that, you could really hear the emotion in those deliveries.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there is one important person that is missing from this list of nominees, and that is the ever lovely Joe Zija, the voice of Claude in Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Yeah, robbed. What the heck?
Robbed. If he had been in the nominee list, I would have given it to him over Mads.
Disgusting. I can't believe they do that to him.
I love you, Mads.
They should riot.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Fear the deer.
Okay. Well, moving on. Best action game. Nintendo got a nom, and Platinum Games got a nom with Astral Chain.
Astral Stain,
which is a game that I still really want to play.
Yeah, me too.
In that category, as well as Apex Legends, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus.
I gave my vote to Apex Legends for this one.
Yes. I think that's a fair one. Not that I've played like any of the other ones.
Well, I mean, like, that's kind of where I'm coming from too, but also I do think Apex plays that well.
Oh no, it plays incredibly.
Yeah,
I mean it's Respawn. Respawn knows how to make a mechanically sound game, right? It just so happens that the rest of the game is good too. Best action adventure game, Link's Awakening, of course. Also in that category, Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, and Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice.
This kind of poses a question. And this is a question they actually talked about on the latest episode of Game Explained Real Talk. And I kind of wanted to get your perspective on it because I don't really know where I land on this. And that's because Link's Awakening is a remake.
Yes.
And it has been nominated for Best Action Game, when in some respects it is a game that came out 20 plus years ago. Does that unqualify it?
I don't think it necessarily unqualifies
or disqualifies it, rather.
But I think that should factor into the decision making here.
Yeah.
Like I did have this question. I'm like, is it the best action adventure game? It's a remake of a Game Boy game.
I mean, one way or the other, like, this probably wouldn't be my vote for the specific category.
Yeah.
But I ask that because, technically this is a game that is just being iterated on. It is built from the ground up in a way that other, remasters aren't.
For sure.
But yeah, it's just kind of a tricky question for me.
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to, like, are you just a big Zelda fan, or have you played these other games? Like,
the gameplay really didn't change. What changed is more of the appearance.
Yeah.
Which,
well, I mean, that being said, like, Resident Evil 2 is also a remake, but that also felt like a bigger transformation.
I mean, I would argue that it's fundamentally a different game.
Right.
In a way that I don't think Link's Awakening is.
I think I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Even though I've never played the original Resident Evil 2, I haven't played a good chunk of the remake. And, man, that feels like a modern game.
Yeah.
Not just, this is a formula that has worked before.
And this isn't to say I wouldn't think that Link's Awakening is deserving, because of course I do. But,
apparently it's a good game. I don't know. I finished it.
No, I mean, I love that game. It's just an interesting question. Just wanted to bring that up.
Moving on, Best Fighting Game. Nintendo was nominated for Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Is it really not going to win this category?
I do, bro.
Let's just be honest.
Honestly, the most disappointing thing about this is the one game that didn't get on it, and some of the other games that are on it.
What game didn't get on it?
Soul Calibur 6.
That came out last year.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, Dead or Alive 6, obviously the winner here. Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, and Samurai Showdown are all
some great fighting games came out this year. Jump Force.
I didn't hear a lot of things outside of. I remember being really excited for Jump Force, just seeing like some of that roster, and then
it's the Smash Brothers of Shonen Jump,
right?
But maybe the game isn't as great.
So I've heard.
Which is not to discount the devs, because
for sure.
But the game maybe isn't as great as it could be.
Yeah. Oh well. Best strategy game: Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Some people were upset that this didn't get nominated for Best RPG, but I feel like this is the right category for it.
Yeah, Fire Emblem is definitely more of a strategy game than it is an RPG.
They've even kind of like stripped some of the RPG out with Three Houses, because there's less focus on the marriage and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's still stats and obviously like a battle system.
You're still role-playing, but not as much.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a strategy game, so I don't know why people are getting angry.
It's going to win
that.
this category, though.
I would hope so.
It's a wonderful game.
Because the other ones, I mean, I don't know a ton about some of these other games, but here they are. War Groove, Tropico 6, Total War 3 Kingdoms, Anno 1800, and Age of Wonders Planetfall.
I know Linus over at Linus Tech Tips really likes Anno, but I've never played it myself.
Yeah, it seems like... I
like
think
a civilization type of thing.
I would imagine that at least like 4 of these 6 games are probably too micromanagey for most people who are going to be playing something like Fire Emblem or War Groove.
Well, that's why strategy kind of needs its own category.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem is probably the most accessible of the bunch here, and that probably gives it an edge. There's also my personal bias because, I'm a big fan of Fire Emblem.
What?
So.
No.
Yeah. I think bias is important.
It is important. It's also important to acknowledge it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Best multiplayer game, Tetris 99.
I am so happy that got nominated.
Other nominees in the category: Apex Legends, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and Tom Clancy's The Division 2.
No Monster Hunter World Iceborne.
Yeah. Going off my gut here, I'm just gonna say Apex Legends, but it's good to see Tetris 99 on here because wow.
I think Apex is probably the right choice here. Not to say that Tetris 99 isn't deserving, because it's untapped potential what that game's doing.
Right. So, I think in terms of
Game of the year.
Oh yeah, I specifically skipped that one
Okay.
at the start. So yeah, other than a Game of the Year, I don't think there's any other. But for Game of the Year, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate obviously was nominated. Obviously, others in those category, Control,
Control,
Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and The Outer Worlds.
I mean, it's a great game.
It
seems like a strange choice.
It's a good game. I feel like if it was a little more ambitious, because it did honestly felt short, and then there was other things that were. It was a good game. It was a good game. I'll say that. But do I think it deserves Game of the Year? No.
I think it's when you contextualize it against the other games.
Oh right.
That it just doesn't feel like it belongs.
It's like, bro. Regardless. So I mean that's
a fairly good Game of the Year list. I think in a way that kind of puts in perspective what we got this year.
Yeah.
It's not a 2018 by far.
Yeah.
2018 was pretty wild, I think, for specifically the other platforms. A little lowbrow on Switch.
Yeah, so I look forward to this. I mean, the Game Awards is just around the corner.
It's just a fun show.
Only other category that I really care about outside of all the Nintendo stuff is the best VR AR game, which if that doesn't go to Beat Saber, I've lost all faith in humanity. Because
I mean, that said, you don't really have any experience with the other ones.
I have experience with No Man's Sky.
Well, I mean, that's No Man's Sky. I wouldn't call it a VR game.
Trover Saves the Universe is built around a controller, and it's also coming to the Switch.
It's those other two.
Asgard's Wrath and Blood and Truth. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Those might be, like, absolutely amazing, but also, like, here's my bias, is that I have never played a VR game like Beat Saber to date. There's nothing that has taken advantage of and just played with where the hardware is at currently and just really found that equilibrium and something that will live on into the future of VR as well.
I'm looking for that in games like Boneworks.
Yes.
Because Boneworks, I feel like, might be the only other VR game where VR is what makes it possible.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I look for in VR. So hopefully Nintendo starts putting out some more VR content here. Maybe some high quality stuff in the next few years. But that's it about the Game Awards.
That show is on December 12th. It's a Thursday that evening. And I would highly suggest that you watch it if you've never watched it before. It's a great show. Jeff always puts his heart into the program. Just celebrating video games, which I think is, fundamentally what we're here for.
It's very cool.
Also, there are world premieres from, all your favorite companies. Nintendo usually has something to show there. Mm-hmm. And if you're a Smash fan specifically, I would venture a guess and say our 5th DLC character will be revealed there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, make sure you watch the show. It's a good time.
Yeah. So a few more things before we wrap up. So just some smaller things coming to Switch. Ubisoft has announced that Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Rogue are coming December 6th to the Nintendo Switch.
Those are two of some of the best reviewed games in the series.
Yes. Very, very just really got all the things right.
Black Flag is a very good game.
So I look forward to seeing, I know that on the PS4 you can get the Ezio collection, which is also a good package of games that I would love to also see come to the Switch, especially since those are older than Black Flag and Rogue.
Yeah.
That would be very cool to see.
Ubisoft seems like they're just kind of trying to get all of their stuff, their legacy content on there.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see those.
Yeah, I definitely think so. We will see the Nintendo Switch version of Elder Scrolls Blades in early 2020, as it has been delayed. Just something else that I'm passively interested in.
I was part of the beta for the closed beta for Elder Scrolls Blades, and it's a pretty neat little game for a mobile game. Like, I feel like I'm getting the Elder Scrolls experience while I'm playing. That said, I don't know if I would be that excited to play it on like a home platform, because it feels like it really was designed with the mobile experience in mind.
Okay.
That's not to say that it's a bad thing that it's coming to Switch. It's just, another option.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you don't have a phone that could run the game.
Yeah, especially if it's like, if you want a little bigger screen as well and just have it, mobile.
I think it'll also support motion controls, because the game, use the touchscreen to attack and defend.
So if you want to play on the TV, you have that option too.
Which I think that I kind of think is like the selling point for me in terms of playing it on a home platform. But I mean, overall, the important thing is we're getting another Elder Scrolls game on the system, and it's always good to have stuff like that.
A few other things. Alien Isolation is coming to the Switch on the 5th of December.
Me. Yeah.
It'll be $34.99, which is a reasonable...
Not bad.
Yeah, that's one of the more reasonable port pricings that we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
Like, instead of just, here's a $60 game, because that's what they could have done. But they chose not to, so good on those devs/publisher on being a little bit more reasonable on that pricing. A game that I have not gotten the chance to play, and if it runs well on Switch, that might have to be the platform I play it on. The very last thing that we talked about, which I thought was more interesting for you and also made me want to watch a anime that I've been told to watch. In Japan, there has been some content, some crossover content with Daemon X Machina. There is some Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion content.
Yes, it is. It's a character costume as well as like an actual mech. So the character costume is Suzaku Kururugi, which is it's the foil to the protagonist in Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion. So you have Lelouch and you have his friend and foil Suzaku Kururugi. So Lelouch is he's Britannian, so he's English, and then you have Suzaku, who's born Japanese, and the conflict in that show is between the nations. But these two people, they're friends, and they're kind of bridging that gap.
Right.
So Suzaku Kururugi, he pilots the mech called the Lancelot, and you get to use that in Daemon X Machina. And I thought that's really cool, because the mech designs in Code Geass are really cool. All of the mechs kind of have their own personalities, even though they're not characters. So it's kind of cool to see some of that content come over to Daemon X Machina. I think it's a great crossover piece.
Yeah, it's a good way to push Daemon X Machina, which I feel like kind of got shafted in a lot of ways upon release.
It came out at a bad time.
Yeah, I
think is what it really comes down to, and some of the marketing around it. That first demo kind of had people not feeling great. Even the second one, not as much, but that development team, they really did try, and they're still trying. And I think it's important to acknowledge that.
Yeah, hopefully this is a game that can succeed over time, and I still hope to get the chance to really play it, but just definitely not on my list.
I'm honestly surprised that another anime didn't have a crossover collaboration before this one, and that being Neon Genesis Evangelion, because this is clearly inspired by the visual design of that series.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, why can't I pilot an Ava Unit 1? There's a Pokemon based on Ava Unit 1
Maybe
now.
There's just that much prestige when it comes to it,
yeah.
Just I don't know who have to go through do you have to go through Anno?
That's a good question. Who do you go through for that?
Just go through the creator yo, can we get some crossover content, or is there who deals with that kind of stuff?
Well, maybe they can make something happen. That said, I hope this isn't the only thing specifically from Code Geass that we get. We don't get one specifically from Lelouch, because Lelouch doesn't really have a mech to call his own. So they went with Suzaku instead, which I think is also a great choice. But there are other mechs from Code Geass that I think that they could pull from that would be cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that alone gets me more interested in playing the game, because I've always thought about, what if we had a Code Geass game that was kind of exactly like this? Make it happen.
Yeah, their next game is just gonna be a straight up Code Geass game, right?
Why not?
That'd be pretty dope.
One thing I do want to talk about before we wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Or did you have something?
No, you're good.
Okay.
I'm just being troublesome.
There's a game I've been playing that I do want to kind of bring
up.
up.
Oh, Pokemon?
Yeah, besides that, that I feel like not enough people know about, and I kind of want to give it some love. And also,
do I know about this game?
Yeah. It's called AI The Somnium Files.
What kind of game is that?
AI The Somnium Files is a visual novel.
Wait, so there's pages in the Switch that you turn the pages to the novel?
There are pages of programming that you use. Okay, so it's a visual novel. It's a 3D visual novel developed by Spike Chunsoft. So it's a little different than your traditional visual novel. Like I said, it's 3D modeled. You're in actual environments. The characters move. They're animated. They talk with voice acting. And it's a little bit similar to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about investigating murder cases. You play as a police officer in an unknown part of the organization that is, hidden from the rest of the world, including the rest of the police department. So basically what they do is they sink into people's dreams. So say I think that you're a suspect in my case and that you might have something to do with the murder I'm trying to solve. Well, I bring you in for questioning, and then I sync with you, and that plunges me as a third party into your dream, and then I deconstruct your dream in order to uncover the truth. And that's a completely different gameplay element in the game, other than just the main reading the text, talking to characters.
Right.
And this game gets weird. When you go into dreams, it's a dream. Reality and logic
break down.
They break down. So you'll have to do a series of tasks, complete a mission inside the dream in under 6 minutes. So you have 6 minutes. Moving around causes the time to start going down. But if you don't move, it ticks down at 1 millisecond every second. And when you start moving, time goes at normal speed.
Right.
But when you find an object, something you can interact with, you hit A to interact with it, and then you're given a series of choices. See, say you find a box. You can push the box, you can kick the box, or maybe you will rap to the box. I mean, the options get really silly. One of them, in the one I just did, it gave me the option to input a fighting game combo onto a lever. But those options cost different amounts of time. So basically, you're experimenting with the objects in the world in order to try and complete the mission. And, things aren't always going to do what you expect them to. So you have to risk time on the clock in order to figure those things out. So that's kind of your punishment for being wrong. It can be a little bit of hit or miss in the Somnium. They're called Somniums, by the way, because those things are very obtuse. But the game's pretty forgiving. It gives you these power-ups called timies, which...
Of course.
Yes. So, you can use a half timey on an action to drop the amount of time required for that action by half. They come in different amounts. Some of them are actually reverse timies, where they make it worse, where it might double or triple the time instead. But yeah, it's basically just a visual novel with similarities to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. There's no court case segments. There are interrogation segments which are similar to the court cases, where you have to provide evidence and kind of prove your point. But it's a really cool game. I'm liking it a lot. It's the same guy who did 999, Zero Time Dilemma, and Zero Escape. That series of games. So if you're familiar with that, you should really like this. I think my only complaint is that some of the jokes are not age appropriate, and they they hit it a little too hard for me in some ways.
I think even if it's an age appropriate joke, Sometimes it's just like it goes too far. It just gets less funny, you know?
Yeah.
So I get it.
Nintendon in the chat, friend of the show, says he's played AI the Somnium Files. He loved it. It's such a weird and abstract game, all from the confusing master Kotaro Uchikoshi. He also penned an anime called Punchline. I was told from another Uchikoshi fan, and in fact the person who lent me the game so that I could play it, that maybe we shouldn't talk about Punchline. So I'm kind of curious about that. But yeah, I'm really, really loving this game. I think I'm about a third of the way through it. It has branching paths like other visual novels do, but this game actually requires you to play all of them in order to beat the game.
Oh.
So you will like come to a point in a route where the game's like, have you done this other thing yet? Because we're going to spoil some stuff that you're not going to want to know about. So it will shoot you over to the other route and make you play that first.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. The game also like plays a little bit with alternate universe theory, and I think that thematically is fitting into the different branching paths stuff. So yeah, it's cool, and the presentation leaves a little bit to be desired sometimes because the animations are very janky.
Oh, they're really stiff from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's very.
And it's funny, especially
stiff.
when like some of the actual performances, like vocal performances, are so good.
They're really good, and a lot of the voice actors you might recognize. I think his name is Justin Briner. He voices Izuku Midoriya in My Hero Academia, the English dub. He voices a fairly prominent character in the kind of first section of the game. Yeah, all the performances are really solid. It really sells the plot.
Yeah.
And a lot of the humor too. There's some really funny moments.
Absolutely.
There's a kid. Actually, it's the same kid I just mentioned. He gets on your nerves when you first meet him. And and like you wait for him to do something, or there's like a pause in the conversation, and you get an option that says punch him. And you select it, and your eyeball Aiba gets mad at you. You have an eyeball named Aiba, and she talks to you. And then after that, you get another option: kick him. It's just funny stuff like that. It's definitely an enjoyable game. You should get it. I think it's on sale right now on both Switch and PC.
Yo.
Just be aware that the Switch version does suffer from some pretty intense frame rate drops at times.
I mean, thankfully, it's not the kind of game
Right.
that, really requires that kind of stuff.
It is a visual novel, so it's not really the worst thing in the world,
Yeah.
but just be aware of that. Yeah, that's really it. Play the game. I think you'll like it.
Well, that's just great to hear. I can't wait to have money for more games to buy. In the meantime, I still have a ton of games.
The entire Ace Attorney trilogy.
I have the entire Ace Attorney trilogy on my Switch.
Trilogy.
I have Paper Mario that I still need to finish. I have Horizon Zero Dawn. I have Nier Automata. So there's no loss of games that I could finish. I just hope that along the road, I don't end up breaking my back.
Please don't, because we got to break in the games. But for now, I don't have time to do this. You say it, Logan.
It just left me again. Don't break your backs.
Breaking the games.
Breaking the games.
But for now.
Break time's over, man.
We'll see you guys next time.